In the golden shadows of dawn, across the ancient plains of the Maasai Mara, a roar cuts through the silence. It is not just the sound of a king announcing his rule. It is the cry of a warrior marked by battle. A beast born not only to survive, but to challenge the gods of the wild. His name is Fang. He does not walk. He commands the earth beneath him. His broken tooth, shattered in the fury of a past encounter, is not a weakness. It is a banner, a scar-turned symbol, a reminder to every lion, every hyena, every creature that watches from the brush. This lion has tasted blood, pain, defeat, and still walks. Fang's rule lies south of the Mara River, in a land where the wind smells of dry soil, old blood, and the hunger of predators. Here, he reigns beside Layla, his queen, fierce, loyal, sharp-eyed. Together they keep order, protect cubs, and strike down threats before they ever take form. But even the strongest scent, the shift of fate, Fang senses it, beyond the river. Across a boundary carved by water and time, another force stirs. Notch, the lion he once faced and scarred waits, and he is no longer alone. Fang's eyes scan the distant horizon. The air is calm, but his instincts scream, because something is coming, a shadow of vengeance. A reckoning born years ago, and in this land only one legend will remain. Before he was called Fang, before his broken tooth became legend, he was simply a lion, powerful, golden-maned, and silent. In the early 2000s, the Maasai Mara was a kingdom divided among titans. Among them, two stood above the rest. One to the north, one to the south. To the north, Notch to the south. The nameless lion who would soon leave a mark on history, Notch was already feared. Thick-maned, broad-shouldered, with a stare that froze hyenas mid-howl. His strength was obvious, but his mind was sharper. He ruled his territory with control and calculated violence, keeping his lionesses and cubs safe through intimidation. Alone, but borders in the wild are illusions. The southern lion, the one who would be Fang, watched. He didn't roar to announce his power. He studied, waited, tested the edges of Notch's land. He tasted the wind for weakness. His goal wasn't survival, it was expansion. He wanted Notch's lionesses, Notch's ground, Notch's legacy. The Northern King sensed the threat before the first blow was struck. When they finally met, it wasn't a random clash. It was a collision of two predators who had studied one another from afar. Their fight erupted near the Mara River. No eyes witnessed its beginning. Only the echoes, deep roars, claws against, flesh snarls swallowed by the grass. But the outcome was clear. Notch landed a devastating blow. A brutal strike to the mouth, sharp and final. The southern lion's tooth snapped, blood trailing down his chin. He didn't run. He didn't fall. He stood there, bloodied and defiant. And in that moment, the locals named him Fang. Not because he lost a tooth, but because he never lost the will to bite back. The broken tooth changed everything. Had struck with precision, and Fury and Fang wore the scar as a reminder. But the fight was far from over. Bloodied, battered, still breathing, Fang responded with his own fury. In a final charge, he tore into Notch with claws and teeth, marking the king with wounds he would carry for the rest of his life. And then a silence fell. Neither lion claimed victory. Both walked away wounded, panting, changed, but it was Notch who fled. With each agonizing step, He crossed the dry bed of the Mara River. No water ran then, only dust and pain beneath his paws. His pride scattered, his body leaking blood. Notch disappeared into the tall grasses. He had never known defeat before. Now he knew shame, and then the rains returned. As if the savanna itself wanted to end the war, the skies opened. The Mara swelled. In days, the river roared again, cutting a path between the two lions, a natural wall of time and distance. Fang ruled one side, Notch hid on the other, separated not by fear but by water, crocodiles, and fate. Fang didn't chase. He didn't need to. His territory was intact, his pride still loyal. Layla remained by his side. He hunted, he defended. He thrived, but he watched. Every night his golden eyes scanned the dark riverbank across the water. He knew that lions like Notch don't stay down forever, that broken kings always return. And while the world called him Fang, he knew what he had truly become, a living scar in Notch's memory. But the story wasn't finished. Because on the far bank, something ancient stirred. Notch was not rebuilding alone. On the far side of the Mara, Notch began again. Alone, wounded, disgraced, he hunted for himself. No pride, no allies, just instinct and memory. Every step was a lesson. Every night, a reminder of what he had lost. But the wild is patient with those who endure, and Notch endured. In time, he crossed paths with another lone male, strong, younger, unclaimed by any pride. They fought, but not to kill. This lion became his first ally. His name is not remembered. Some called him light male. Others knew him only by the quiet. The way he walked behind Notch, like a shadow becoming a brother. Together, they took a pride. The marsh pride. It was Notch's first major victory since the fight with Fang. He and Lightmail overthrew the existing males, claimed the lionesses, and re-established dominance. The shame of the river began to fade. Cubs were born. Strength returned. For a time, Notch ruled again, but the wild does not rest. In 2005, 3 rogue males invaded. Lightmail died defending the pride. Once more, Notch was forced to flee, this time with lionesses and cubs in tow. He didn't fight back. He ran for survival, for legacy, and in that exile, something changed. He looked at his cubs, his sons, and made a choice the wild had never seen. He didn't abandon them, he trained them. Tradition said young males were to be driven off or killed by new rulers, but Notch raised his sons in secret, taught them to hunt, to fight, to survive. Over time, they grew strong, loyal, and deadly. By 2007, Notch had not just returned, he had built something new. A coalition of 6 males, bound not by bloodlust, but by bloodline. Together, they claimed territory after territory, 1,000 square kilometers under one name, Notch. He had been broken, now he was reborn. But south of the river, Fang still watched, and the river was drying, while Notch was forging a dynasty in the north. Fang had become more than a ruler, he was a force of nature. His territory stretched across the fertile banks south of the Mara. Prey was plentiful. Cubs were strong. And Layla, his queen, remained the spine of the pride. Together, they built a structure of discipline, defense, and brutal efficiency. No challenger lasted long. Fang struck with the precision of experience and the rage of memory. But Fang was no tyrant. He was strict, but not cruel. He resolved disputes within the pride with authority, protected the young, he patrolled relentlessly. He was the wall between chaos and survival. Scars lined his face. Age began to weigh on his body. But his eyes never lost their fire. To the younger lions of the region, he was legend. The lion with the broken tooth, the one who had faced Notch and made him bleed. Two rivals, he was a warning written in flesh. Seasons passed. The river swelled and shrank. Crocodiles came and went. But Fang's rule remained untouched. And every dusk, he climbed the same hill. From there, he stared north. He didn't need to. Cross the river. He only needed to remember that Notch had once run from him. But the wild doesn't honor memory. It only respects momentum. And the balance that had held for so long was about to collapse. Because the river was no longer full. Barrier was breaking, and Fang's silence would soon meet the roar of fate, the Mara. River had always been the line between legends. For years, it kept Fang and Notch apart, not just with water, but with time, distance, and fate. But no wall lasts forever. After months of relentless drought, the river shrank to a mere shadow of itself. In places where crocodiles once ruled, there was only cracked earth and scattered bones. And in one stretch, just one, a bridge of land emerged. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Notch stood at the northern edge. Older now, but surrounded by power. His sons, the coalition he had raised, controlled vast territories. They were hunters, warriors, kings in the making. And now they waited. Notch didn't roar. He moved in silence. With his strongest son beside him, he stepped onto the dry riverbed. Each step across the soil whispered of vengeance, of promises unfulfilled, the score left open to long. Across the way, Fang felt the shift. He tasted the wind. He didn't run. He climbed his hill. Layla gathered the pride. The young huddled behind the lionesses. And Fang stood alone at the front, scarred, aging, defiant. The river had broken. The past was returning, and night was falling fast. Twilight settled over the savanna, casting long shadows across the battlefield. Notch arrived with his son, a towering young male. Muscles taut, eyes fixed forward. Fang waited atop the hill, every scar visible in the fading light. He didn't roar, didn't charge. He simply stood, as if daring the past to strike him down. The lionesses, led by Layla, formed a wall of muscle and fangs behind him. They weren't just mothers, they were soldiers. Every cub hid behind them. Every heartbeat thudded in. Time with the coming war. Notch stepped forward. His son flanked him. The air snapped with tension. Then came the clash. Dust erupted as teeth met flesh. Claws carved through fur. Fang lunged, striking with all the fury of memory and survival. But he was outnumbered. His pride held strong, but they couldn't match the unity and raw force of the blood-bound coalition. Forming just beyond the horizon, recognizing the imbalance, Notch retreated. He hadn't come to die, not yet. Backed away with his son, muscles torn, breath heavy, rage unfinished. At dawn, his roars echoed again across the riverbed, and this time the others answered. All 5 sons of Notch crossed into Fang's land. 6 males, bound by blood and vengeance, marching into the territory of a legend. That night, the war came in full. There were no rangers nearby, no witnesses, only the roars that shattered the silence. And when the dust finally settled, Fang was gone. Morning came, but Fang did not. Guides searched the battleground, following the trails of claw marks, broken grass, and blood. They found nothing, no body, no bones, no clear sign of victory or burial. Only silence. Had he been torn apart and devoured by hyenas? Or had he escaped, wounded and fading into the deep folds of the savanna, to die alone, unseen, undefeated in spirit? No one could say, but one truth remained. Fang was never seen again. What emerged instead were Notch and his sons, 6 lions. Moving as one, now rulers of both banks of the Mara, Layla, once queen beside Fang, now followed in silence behind the victors. The pride had shifted. The river, once a wall, now marked a new kingdom. Notch had taken everything, but Fang had given something greater, a story that would never die. The wild does not write history in books. It writes in scars and broken teeth, in the eyes of those who remain. Fang the lion, who once stood alone against the tide, had vanished. But legends do not end. They fade into silence and live on in the dust, in the blood, and in the roar that once split the dawn. If you're enjoying the story, hit the like button and leave a comment sharing what has impressed you the most so far. Your support helps this content reach more people who love wildlife